Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, there are promising developments for the COVID-19 fight in the Bluegrass. Mitch McConnell defends his statement about letting states go bankrupt. And I'll talk with NFL draft expert Josh Edwards. All that and more is next on Hey, Kentucky. Welcome into Hey Kentucky alongside LEX 18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. And while we do have some good news to get to, we got to start with this. UK is furloughing 1,700 employees, 1,500 of those in the healthcare space. And with elective surgeries perhaps returning next week, hopefully some of those people will be able to keep their jobs.
Yeah, it seems kind of like odd timing, doesn't it? Because, like you said, with it coming back, those elective surgeries, it just seems like an odd time to furlough. But, I guess they had their reasons for it. And many of the other jobs are just ones on campus that just aren't being needed right now.
I know, and hopefully they'll be back as well soon. All right, let's get started with the positive. Governor Beshear has announced the state will expand access to COVID-19 testing. It will now be available to the general public. In a partnership with Kroger, 2 drive-through sites will open next week in Lexington and Louisville. These sites will open up in or around predominantly black communities, which have across the country been hit hard by the coronavirus. Here's the governor's explanation, followed by Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher.
The commitment that we are making, teaming with Louisville and Lexington, Fayette County, is that we are going to run more tests in that week with a capacity of 1,500 per week in each of those locations. But today we're also committing to doing 2 straight weeks of it.
When you take a look at the disparity that is baked into America right now and the cities in America, in Louisville, like cities all over America and the Commonwealth, there is a 12-year life expectancy difference between the most resourced communities and the least resourced communities. That's something that I don't think anybody would tolerate.
2 other Kroger sites will open next week in Owensboro and Bowling Green. At all of these, people will take self-administered tests monitored by a medical professional. Results come back in about 48 hours. And Keith, you really don't even have to be showing symptoms to get the test. They're trying to make this available for everyone.
I think a lot of us have been wondering all along, where is the testing? And now this makes it that much easier to go through, and it makes it more accessible, like he was saying, to those communities that are lacking, that need this. And so I think this is great news all around for the state and certainly for Lexington and Louisville.
And we have to ramp up the testing to be able to open up the economy. So this is a positive step in that direction as well. All right, there are also encouraging developments on the research front in Kentucky. This is spectacular. A professor of medicine at the University of Louisville says she's excited about the potential of a treatment that's been used for cancer patients. In lab tests, Paula Bates says the drug appears to block coronavirus from infecting cells. She's hopeful that the process can be fast-tracked in a few months to find out if it's worked.
Eventually, we hope to develop a vaccine that will prevent all of this, but this could be used for people who had gotten the coronavirus and wanted to try and prevent getting sick from it. Because it works as an antiviral, potentially it could work at all stages of the infection.
Meanwhile, researchers in both Lexington and Louisville are looking into a testing method that could eventually shed light on how the body produces antibodies to the virus. Keith, this would really be something if the state of Kentucky and the University of Louisville made this happen.
Are we allowed to throw L's up right now?
Yeah.
Because I think everybody would get behind this a little bit. But yes, this would certainly be good news, especially considering what we heard earlier this week, that in the winter months, this could come back and could come back harsher with flu symptoms as well.
Exactly. All right, Governor Beshear is sharing more details about the plan to get our state back to work. Starting Monday, hospital and healthcare services will start to gradually reopen as part of phase 1 of restarting the economy. Meanwhile, the Kentucky Retail Federation is taking the lead in discussions on what their industry will look like once stores are back up and running. They anticipate that there will be social distancing guidelines and more sanitizing stations.
We would like to see kind of a consistent opening plan for the whole state and not jurisdiction by jurisdiction, so everybody's playing on the same field and everybody knows what the rules are.
Folks at Kentucky Kingdom in Louisville say they plan to reopen in June, saying safety is their top priority and that they plan to follow all of the government's guidelines. All of this comes as a coronavirus model often cited by the White House suggests Kentucky should wait until June 8th or later to relax social distancing orders. Keith, that feels like a long time from now.
A whole long time away. And what's amazing about that study is the fact that here we thought Kentucky was doing great and we were ahead of the curve on a lot of what was going on across the country. And it looks like that they're recommending that all the other states around us, except for Virginia, I think it is, open up sooner. And so that's disappointing.
I know, and our unemployment is the second highest in the nation due to the coronavirus. So things have been tough here. All right, Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell is taking some heat for his comments surrounding coronavirus relief. While the Senate has approved almost $500 billion in funding for small businesses, hospitals, and testing, Democrats had also pushed for funding to help state and local governments. But McConnell says he thinks the federal government shouldn't bail them out, which drew criticism from some governors.
I would certainly be in favor of allowing states to use the bankruptcy route. It saves some cities, and there's no good reason for it not to be available. My guess is their first choice would be for the federal government to borrow money from future generations to send it down to them now so they don't have to do that. That's not something I'm going to be in favor of.
Marie Antoinette said, let them eat cake. Mitch McConnell said, maybe let them file for bankruptcy.
Come on, man. That is completely and utterly irresponsible. There's no level of responsibility associated with that, and I don't care what party you're in.
McConnell later elaborated on those comments, saying the Fed shouldn't have to bail out states that already suffered from economic problems related to the bad decisions they made before the COVID-19 era, including those on pensions, which is his very own state, Keith.
He even got a "come on, man" out of one of them.
Yeah.
It was incredible. He's got hardly anybody behind him on this. I mean, Republican and Democratic governors and legislators, they're all just, I mean, there's very few that is behind him on this. And I think we're pretty much at this point borrowing from future generations anyway.
Yeah.
And we got to get the cities going.
And we're going to do that with airlines, and we're going to do that with other industries. We've done it with banking.
Yep.
Let's help the states and the cities. All right, LEX18 has teamed up with God's Pantry Food Bank for the Hope Over Hunger project, dedicated to help feeding the needy during these unprecedented times. Yesterday, our station vice president and general manager, Andrew Schenken, presented a $10,000 donation from the Scripps Howard Foundation to God's Pantry to help them continue to meet the needs of hungry families. Comfort Heating and Air in Lexington matched our donation, and we hope other businesses can do the same. If you'd like to support the cause, log on to lex18.com/hope. And if you own or manage a business or restaurant that's open to a new way of serving customers, we'd like to share your story. Head to lex18.com/open. You can submit your business there or find businesses that are open during this crisis. Turning to basketball, Coach Cal's hunt for a big man continues after a high-profile grad transfer decided to take his talents elsewhere. Today, Purdue's Matt Harms announced his plan to attend BYU next season. The 7'3" center picked them over Kentucky and Texas Tech. As for another name True Blue fans have recently become familiar with, sources say VCU forward transfer Marcus Santos Silva is not seen as a likely option at this point either. This leaves the Kentucky front court pretty light, having lost Nick Richards and E.J. Montgomery to the draft. Some say this could be Cal's biggest rebuilding job of all. Keith, it was like Matt Harms was coming here until he wasn't. Last night, the BYU thing came into play, and that's where he ended up. Where does Cal go for his front court now?
Yeah, and now Mark Pope, the former Wildcats, the winner in this one. How about that? At BYU, he gets Harms. At this point, you got what you got, I think, unless there is another transfer that's out there. You got a couple of 6'9" guys in Isaiah Jackson and Lance Ware. You got some 6'7" guys, but, a couple of them are shooting guards at 6'7". That's what's amazing, and Terrence Clark and B.J. Boston. So, I think we're going to see small ball out of the Wildcats and maybe see them switch on everything on defense, and it could be a lot of fun to watch.
And it's not like Santos Silva's 7 feet tall either, so he wouldn't be the answer. All right.
Right. Exactly.
Now to our weekly feature on Hey Kentucky, What's the Beef, sponsored by the Kentucky Beef Council. The ACLU has released a report on racial disparity when it comes to marijuana arrests in the Bluegrass. The organization says black Kentuckians are 9.4 times more likely than white Kentuckians to be arrested for pot possession, despite both groups having similar national marijuana use rates. That's second only to Montana, where the African American arrest rate is 9.6 times higher than whites. And that's tonight's edition of What's the Beef? Up next on Hey Kentucky, tonight marks round one of a most unusual NFL draft. We'll talk with Josh Edwards of CBS Sports about his thoughts on where UK players like Logan Stenberg and Lynn Bowden might fall on this draft week. Stay with us.